In the same line, we have now 6 financial blunders, learning from mistakes. One of our very important topic again to achieve financial freedom. And we have Mr. Amit Trivedi with us. He's author, speaker, blogger, trainer. Amit sir, a warm welcome to our today's 9th annual Wealth Management Convention organized by AFM India. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a very interesting topic to talk about, and when we discuss this topic of 6 financial blunders, well, let's rest assured that I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I've committed some of these blunders myself, so part of it is personal experience. But I think somewhere all of us do keep making some of these mistakes, and let's learn from these mistakes so that in future we take better financial decisions, and improves our financial well-being. What I'm going to do is quickly run you through 6 blunders which according to me are critical, slightly broader and wide areas, and we'll look at some of the topics in between. But one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen people committing over the years is to, looking for that best product, looking for that ideal insurance plan, which investment will generate higher returns, without looking at the importance of that product or the role of that product in the overall financial plan, overall scheme of things. What is the ultimate objective that I want to achieve, and what am I investing for? I think that gets missed out very often, and this is the first blunder that many of us make. Now, what happens in such cases is that the whole purpose why money is being managed is forgotten, and when that purpose is forgotten, money becomes the end in itself rather than remaining the means to achieving an end called a good quality life. Roughly 30 years back, when I started my career in financial services, I was under the impression that many investors invest money to get a good sleep at night. But when I looked around, a lot of people were losing their night's sleep, good night's sleep, only because of the investments. And there was a huge disconnect. Over the years, this realization dawned that when you look at things in isolation and not holistically, that's a blunder that people make, and that needs to be corrected. The second is nothing new. It's just to highlight that point, I picked up this quote from or the shlok from Amrit Bindu Upanishad. So it is an Upanishadic quote which says, "Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo." It is the mind of the human that decides whether you get bandhan or you get moksha, whether you remain bound by something or you achieve freedom or independence. And emotions play a huge role. And while Amrit Bindu Upanishad said it in the context of life, the investment guru, Benjamin Graham, the dean on Wall Street, he said it in the context of investing, and he said, investors who cannot master their emotions cannot become good investors. He also said that an investor's chief enemy and the biggest problem is likely to be himself. So what happens in such cases? And a couple of things that I would like to highlight at this stage is a lot of times decisions are taken impulsively. The first point that we mentioned is also on the same lines, where which is the best product kind of question, without taking the holistic picture. Now, a lot of times decisions are taken impulsively. Something looks good, something is good, appears to be good, and we sign the check. Shortcuts is the next one. Not doing enough research because I'm in a hurry to sign that check. So yielding to emotions becomes a huge issue. For the movie buffs, in the movie Kalia, Amitabh Bachchan said, हम वो है जो कभी किसी के पीछे खड़े नहीं रहते, जहां खड़े होते हैं लाइन वहीं से शुरू होती है. Now that was Amitabh Bachchan. But what do most of the investors do? What do? जहां लाइन होती है वहां हम खड़े रह जाते हैं. This so-called herd mentality, bhed chal, and that is something which is again a social construct that we find safety in numbers. When we are around people, when we are together, we find safety. The big lesson that all of us should learn is intelligence quotient is not equal to investment quotient. Just because one is extremely intelligent doesn't make one a great investor. And there are numerous examples. Investment requires not just high level of intelligence, but, and I'm not saying very high level of intelligence, high level meaning maybe a school goer is reasonably good. I mean, simple mathematics is good enough, but more than that, it requires controlling one's emotions, knowing why we are doing something, and for that, if one has to go to basics, that could be a better idea. Ignorance is part of the same emotional being, and then if that ignorance gets combined with overconfidence, it creates disaster. So overconfidence leads us to believe that we can do it, we are successful, but the ignorance of a lot of things can end up in a very, very harmful manner. Know as much as you can, but then also understand that at some stage you are not going to know everything. It's impossible to know everything. What do you do in such case? Well, embrace the risk of the unknowns. 2 years back, the world did not know that suddenly we are in the middle of a pandemic, the half of the world's population would be locked within the houses. I think it was unimaginable. Or early this year, what happened on the Russia-Ukraine border was also, the timing at least was unimaginable, though a lot of experts had been warning about it. A lot of uncertain things are going to happen. We are not going to know about it. And in that case, it is better to stay prepared for the eventualities and cover the downside rather than trying to be a little more adventurous. If I want to become adventurous, if I want to jump in the sea, I would rather wear a life jacket and do it. If I were to jump, from an aeroplane, I'd ensure that I have a good parachute, and then only I'll jump. So take risks, but also take measures to protect yourself against those risks. One of the biases that we have is we want to know the future, and in that process, we look for predictions. Either I predict or I find somebody who can predict. The fact of the matter is, future is something which is extremely difficult to predict, and the track record of the people who tried to predict is very poor. What do I mean by poor track record? It doesn't mean that majority of the time they are wrong. It doesn't mean that. It means that sometimes they are right and sometimes they are wrong. It is impossible to tell which time they would be right or wrong. It's important to understand this part as well, because if I know that all the predictors are wrong most of the times, I can actually take a position contrary to what they are predicting. But what if their probability, success probability is 50%? Half the time they are right, half the time they are wrong, and you don't know which half. That makes it even more difficult. Guarantees, sureties, certainties, they exist, or they may exist in the past or the present. They don't exist as far as the future is concerned. This probably is, out of the 6 that I'm talking about, this probably is the biggest. Once you put your finances in place, not maintaining records is a crime. I'm sorry to use a very harsh word, but there have been cases where the man who was a man of the house who was managing financial matters got hospitalized was unconscious for a while, and the wife did not know that there was a cashless mediclaim that he had taken. Who did you take that cashless mediclaim for? If something happens to me, then my family should use it. Insurance policies, investments, the family doesn't know. Loans, the family doesn't know. And while one wants to leave a good legacy, want to be remembered for good things, the improperly maintained records may lead to disputes being left over. Or just look at the amount of unclaimed dividends, unclaimed redemption amounts with mutual funds, the physical share certificates which have no value simply because they are in physical form. That amount runs into lakhs of crores. Whose wealth is it? It is the wealth of somebody who may not have maintained proper records. Now, while many of these things may sound easy to do, they are not. Take emotional control for that matter. The best of the best need somebody to guide them. Now, that guide takes care of certain psychological aspects in nudging people towards the right behavior. There are a lot of investors who think that they can manage their finances themselves. Quite a few of them could be right, but a very large number, significantly large number, may not succeed in that task simply because of one or rather two facts. Number one, common men like us, we are not trained in management of personal finances. There is no education. Schools and colleges do not teach this subject. And number two, we cannot devote enough time towards management of money, because I could be busy as a doctor, as a professor somewhere, as an employee working somewhere, or I may be running my business, I may be running my shop, whatever category I come from, but I end up spending a large part of the day towards those things, which does not leave much for managing personal finances. In such cases, it's better to seek professional help, and that also often saves time and money, though it appears like you're paying fees to the professional. But think about it. If as a doctor, if I don't spend that much time on money management, and if I can see 5 patients during that period of time, I'm likely to earn higher fees by seeing those patients. If I am let's say I'm a corporate trainer, by doing those 2 training programs, I'll make more money than how much I'll be saving by spending my time here. The cost of mistake is not even added. I'm only talking about the cost of time. The book that I've mentioned at the bottom, that's my personal experience. At one point, and I'm diabetic, at one point in time, I thought I can manage my diabetes myself and stop going to the doctor, stop taking professional help, to be precise. And eventually, I had to take the professional help because I landed up in an ICU, and the same doctor came and said, "You are a non-compliant patient, I don't want to talk to you." I did not like that experience, but then who had committed the mistake? Yeah, so one had to face the consequences. The 6th blunder is forgetting this fact. The biggest asset that any person has is one's health. How does that help? If I maintain good health, I can increase my working life. I can extend it, which means I'll spend fewer years in retirement. My, couple of generations earlier, if I look at my grandfather's generation, then in those cases, the life expectancy at birth was maybe around 55, 60 years. Today, it has crossed 70. So we are living longer, and there are many families, especially in urban India, who see a lot of family members crossing 80, 85, 90. If I stop working at 60, either out of choice or by force because my health does not permit, I'm talking about 20, 25 years of retired life. If my health permits, can I extend that working life by 5 or 7 or 10 years? Then I'll earn for longer period and remain in retirement for a shorter period. But for that, the health has to allow. Number two, if the health is not good, the medical bill will keep rising. And a lot of medical expenses do not get covered under health insurance. So those are self-funded expenses. If I maintain my health, I think in the entire wealth creation process, that better health turns out to be a huge source of wealth. Well, since we are talking, let me just add one more blunder. And this blunder is actually related to the blunders. And this is purely personal experience. And this is about mistakes or blunders, a particular lie or rather two lies that we keep telling ourselves, two lies. Lie number one, I do not make mistakes. And lie number two, I do not repeat mistakes. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this session makes you think about what all we might be doing, and connect with your day-to-day life and see how you can improve your life better. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amit sir, for sharing wonderful 6 mistakes that we generally make, but we should avoid for achieving financial freedom. Thank you so much, Amit sir, for being here and sharing wonderful insights with our viewers today.
Reach out today and let's do it professionally.